start with our second segment. I'll start off. Any questions from the first hour? We're really going to get into the meat of programming your radio along with this segment. So, very easy. I want to show you really just the very basic differences in what you have to do to get on the air. FM radio and D-Star. With an FM radio, first select the mode. FM, AM. What frequency? Put in the offset. Most repeaters now have put tone in. Frequency. Do all that, you're on the air, right? What's different with a D-Star radio? You put the mode, not mode FM, it's DV. Mode is DV. Select frequency, select port, the offset. But we introduced a couple of new things that are different from an FM radio. One is UR, and that is about as simple as I can say it. UR, where you want to go. Then repeat 1 and repeat 2. Not so if they're still talking, you can't go over them and issue the unlink. But hit that pause between them. So there's that good operating practice. Leave a little pause between transmissions, even on D-Star, to issue that unlink command, and then it will unlink. That should clear that up for you. Another question. Many repeaters are connected with some third-party software called Munlink, developed by a gentleman out of Birmingham, Alabama. Munlink does several things. Munlink can set up a default place to link, and a lot of repeaters say default to 30 Charlie or something like that. So what happens is it also has a feature that if the repeater is either idle on the local end or the remote end for a specified time period, it will unlink. And if you've set something in your default link, it will go back and link there. Most of our repeaters in Georgia are set up that if it's been idle for, 10 or 15 minutes on the local end, meaning nobody's talking, if it's been idle for the same amount of time remotely, then it will unlink and go back to where we designated. In our case, for Georgia, it's 30 Bravo. So if you drive out of an area, generally that timer will expire and the system will unlink. It is courteous that if you have linked it somewhere else, to unlink it if you're still within range, right? Was there a question over here? Okay. The last command is an E. Remember from the list, that's an echo test. You're going to hear yourself back after every transmission, and so will everyone on the repeater. All right, that's method one. That works well for some of the earlier model radios like the 91, the 92, 880, 800, any of those radios. You can still, even with those radios, use method two, which what I would do with that, I would set one memory channel for a repeater, and I would set it for CQ, CQ, CQ in the UR field. So I just have to have one memory location for each repeater. Cuts down on all that block of 10 or whatever you would reserve. So you can then, and the menus are different, so I can't go into all of the details on them. But if you go menu, and then I think it's call sign, you can rotate to you'll see the UR field, and you can rotate the knob, and you can have those favorites all programmed in there. And rather than have to either have a separate memory location for what's in the UR field different, you can have those in, and you see this little excerpt here from the Icom programming software under your call sign, and there's 60 of them, I think, in there. So you could store your favorite 60 commands in there. And then depending on your radio, I think you'll hit menu, and then call sign, and then highlight under UR, and then rotate the knob, and you can select whichever one of those you want. That's going to be method two. That simplifies the number of memories that you will use, because you're going to have some favorites here that you go to all the time. You're going to have your favorite reflector, favorite repeater that you will want to use. Does that make sense? Look in your radio, depending on each radio. I think it'll be under menu. Press the menu button, and then look under call sign, and then you'll see
you'll see all four fields: my, UR, repeat 1, repeat 2. Highlight, UR, rotate the knob. And in the programming software, you can set it up in those 60 memory locations for that. Has anyone done it that way? Good. So whether it's a 91 AD, 92, 80, 880, any of those radios, you can do method 1 or method 2. Does that make sense? Does everyone get that? Try it. You'll love it. All right. If you have an ID 3151, 5100, or 7100, another typo there, sorry, you have what is called a new mode, DR mode. DR mode, you'll see a screen that says to and from. Boy, this is going to simplify programming. From is where I want to go, or what repeater I'm on. And I can highlight that field, whether I have a touch screen or I have to select it in the menu, and then it will let me select from a repeater list. Now that's a separate group of frequencies. A separate group of memories than your standard memories. I think in the ID 51 it's 750 memories in your repeater list. In the new 5100 it is 1200 memories. Now that's in addition to the hundreds of regular memories that you'd program FM stuff in and other things. So if you use the DR mode, first off, those memories that are in the repeater list are geocoded. Do you know what that means? I have the lat and long of each one of those repeaters in there. And since I have GPS in this radio, I know where I am. The radio knows where I am. It knows where all the repeaters are, so it can give me a list of the nearest repeaters. Or I can select from a list, if I don't have GPS enabled or equipped, that will allow me to select from a bank like the Southeast or the Northwest, and then just scroll through the list of repeaters. And you'll see a display that looks similar to this. And then I just select that one, and I've programmed repeat 1 and repeat 2 at that point. Now, I'm going to go up to the TO field, and that is going to allow me to change basically what's in the UR field. And I can scroll through there and go through different items. Now, when I am in, this is the second screen that you would go to in the to field. I've already selected the repeater. Now I can get a repeater list, and that lists all of them that are in the repeater list memories. And you may get an intermediate screen if you've done the banks, which says Southeast or whatever state you designate or whatever country, whatever it may be. Nearest repeater, if your radio is one of these models and equipped with GPS, it's going to give you a list of the nearest repeaters. It's going to tell you how far away they are from you and kind of what direction. So you'll see that TX history, that's just a history of your last selections. In the to field, you get a different set. You may get, I want to use a repeater. Oh, there's that CQ, CQ, CQ. So that's my talk channel, and that's indicated over there. Or I may want to select unlink repeater, or information, or echo test. I just scroll to those, select it, key it. That function has been created. Now, if I went to repeater list, that would be a list of repeaters. So, if I'm here already in use reflector, I can use the knobs to scroll through those. Now, I want to give you one hint in using DR mode, and here's a very common mistake I made it on my first radio that had DR mode. There are several CQs that are listed. One will say local CQ. That is for talking on your local repeater only, and what it does is not put a G in repeat 2. So you're only going to be talking on your local repeater. Someone asked me during the break, why is one of the people in our group, he's only heard on the local repeater, but he's not going over the link. That's probably because if he was using this, he said local CQ, which dropped the G, or he had it programmed and didn't have a G after the call sign in repeat 2. That didn't send it to the gateway, which then didn't send it out where the repeater was linked. So if you are in DR mode and select 2, you'll rotate the knob. If you're on the 5100, selecting gateway CQ, which is right after local CQ, that would give you a list of repeaters that you want to link to. If you go on down to link to reflector, it'll give you a list of reflector. We'll go through some of the screens on the 5100, and that'll be similar to like the 51 as well, if you have that. Does that make sense? Did that give you some insight in how to use DR mode to simplify your programming? When your radio comes, if it's a 3151, 5100, 7100, it's going to come out of the box with a list of repeaters already programmed in repeat list. That list is accurate, pretty accurate, as accurate as any list of repeaters can be, but it might be dated. So there is a way also then to update that list, either using the Icom software, RT systems. You can manually enter them as well. Some of the newer radios have an SD card that's in them, so you can export it to a CSV file, like a comma delimited file, and you can edit it outside in Excel or a spreadsheet editor and load it back in. So you can update your list. If you go out to the website www.dstarinfo.com, you can go to the download section and you can update your list any way you would like. Remember the last bullet up here. Return to use repeater or use reflector in DR mode to get back to that CQ, CQ, CQ. Here's a question I see on a lot of the lists. I've got a DV access point. How do I program my radio? They'll say, I bought a brand new ID51. I can't make it work with my DVAP. All you need to do is really just program the UR field. If you're putting it in your standard memories, number one, you're going to select a frequency. It's going to be simplex because the DV access point is just operating half duplex. DV mode, and then what you want in the UR field. If you're putting it in standard memories, just enter direct for repeat 1. That's all you have to do, and your DVAP is working. So I've got a couple of repeater linking commands in there. If I'm putting it in the repeater list, which works with DR mode, I've created another block here, and I have a couple of different DVAPs. I've got a 2 meter and a 440, and I put in the standard frequencies, like if my radio is working with someone who just bought a DVAP and it comes default to certain frequencies. And so all I have to do is put in the operating frequency. I don't have to put in anything else. Remember, with a DVAP, you're operating simplex. You transmit, or it transmits to you. I think that'll clear up. That's one of the most often posted messages I see on the DVAP dongle Yahoo group. How do I make it work with my new radio? The ID1. as I said, this is a very useful radio if you want to transmit, especially if you want to transmit data. We actually have used this radio for some very specialized purposes. If you're out in the field and you need kind of a last mile to extend the internet out, it's just going to act as an Ethernet bridge. We had an application where we actually put it on an airplane. We had a request to say, I want to be able to fly over a disaster site and take pictures and get those back real time. The governor in Georgia, the previous governor, said, I don't have a way to do that. What they were doing before is they would get Civil Air Patrol to fly them over an area, they'd snap a picture, and they were trying to send them back on a sat phone. Well, that worked pretty well if you were flying straight and level, didn't turn, held your mouth right, and you could send it back at a speedy 9600 baud. We have been able to send pictures back, take them on a digital camera. Some digital cameras will encode the GPS location in the metadata. This is not metadata that the National Security Council uses yet. Good point. And so that data, that picture then could be transmitted back at 10 or 11 times faster. Now these are not going to be 5 megabit pictures, but you can send them at a reasonable resolution. These were, say, 250 to 500 kilobyte pictures, and they would send back in under a minute. So that would work pretty well. Did I include? I think I may have some in here later. But it's a little different programming if you're using the data on this. I've got, in this particular configuration, there is actually an Ethernet cable that comes out of the radio to an RJ45 standard Ethernet connector. That can plug directly into your PC. I'll show you my configuration, and it's a variation of that. Here's where that IP address, remember when you registered that 10 dot something address? I must put that in the PC. The radio doesn't have the address. The PC that's connected to it has that 10 address. Your gateway is 10001 that you program in your card. Use any known DNS. I like to use Google's DNS 8.8.8.8 or 8.8.4.4 for an alternate. And you can connect a PC directly to that radio and transmit. Or I did a little different. I put a little router in between it. And what I do with that, the reason I put the router there is I don't have to worry about that 10 address and reprogramming my radio. I program it in the WAN side of the router. And then that way, I don't have to worry about IP addresses. I let the router give I just connect my PC to it, and it's either DHCP to get an address or wireless. And then I'm connected. And I can connect multiple PCs or devices to that as well by doing that. Now, what do I need to put in the radio to talk for internet access? In the UR, I just put the pure call sign of the repeater. Repeat 1. I'm going on 1.2 gigs, so it's A. Call sign in G and repeat 2. Now I'm going to change the mode to RPS. RPS is the high-speed data mode. So for my ID1 to operate, that's already programmed in. And if I'm using my local repeater going into it on its high-speed data module, I just basically plug and play here. And that package has actually flown on an airplane to take some pictures. I don't know whether I put anyone in here. We took the pictures when we did this. We didn't have a real fancy new camera, so we had to put the GPS information in real quick. We used the Google Picasa website because basically this gave me an internet connection and we would upload those to Picasa. That way anyone could access that knew where those pictures were posted. They can view them. We also had a DRATS chat session going because it's an internet connection, and because it would be hard to communicate on an airplane, sitting in the back seat of a noisy airplane. This was a Cessna 172. We had the DRATS chat session going and say, hey, I just posted the picture of this water treatment plant or this airport. And that we use that for communications with the ground. Here are some of the pictures that we actually took from the air and uploaded to the Picasa website. Now, you see over on the right all those little points. It geocoded them and put them on the map. So I can click on any one of those and bring up one of these pictures much larger. So here's a picture of an airport, small airport, football stadium, lots of different places. And these were actually taken from the air, and during a short flight, they were about 50 miles out from the repeater. But because they're up a couple of thousand feet or higher, it's line of sight back to the repeater. So you can get, actually we calculated, you can get over 100 miles with some altitude on 1.2 gigahertz in using this. But for most things, you want to be closer to the ground to take pictures, so you might be at 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 feet, depending on your ground elevation, and taking those pictures. So these were actually sent back over the ID1. If you click on that map, you see thumbnails of where each one of those pictures was taken in our flight from Lawrenceville to Athens, Georgia. And all those pictures were shot along the way. This is just one of the things you can do with an ID1. This radio's been, in fact, it was the first D-Star radio that came out back years ago. But it's still available out there and can have some great use, especially for like emergency communications groups. And if I click on each one of those pictures, it will show me a little larger one, or I can even view it full size. But that's an actual picture taken as they flew over the University of Georgia football stadium. Obviously, it wasn't a game day, so they didn't get shot down by the F-15s. All right. We covered a lot on radio programming in this segment. I would think you would have some questions. If not, I'm going to show you more of the 5100 in a little while, but I just want to go through a couple of functions here on it just to demonstrate how easy it is with DR mode. I'm not sure this is going to reach all the way over here, Adrian. Let me try to get down here. Now, right now I have this radio in dual receive mode, so you're seeing both sides of the radio. I can very easily just go back and make it a single receive, and that'll give you a little better clarity of it. All right, I want to go to, now you see up here in the very top, just to the right of center, there's a little flashing icon. That's my GPS lock icon. I'm inside. I don't have GPS lock. So it's going to use my last location where I was when I do nearest repeater. So it might be Georgia as opposed to Dayton, Ohio. Keep that in mind. I'm going to select from, hit it again. I want nearest repeater. GPS is invalid using the last, well, it won't use the last location. I'm sorry, that won't do that. Position data is invalid. Let me do it this way. If it had GPS lock, then it would show me the local repeaters and I would select the one I want. So I'm going to go an alternative way. I'm going to go repeater list. I'm going to go northeast, and I can scroll through these repeaters. Let me get down, see how quickly I can get down to Ohio. Why did O have to be so far down in the alphabet? There we go. Ohio. There's Cincinnati. Dayton, Ohio. I want to select that one. Boom. I am there. I didn't have to program that in a special memory. What do I want to do now? I'm going to select Use Reflector. If I want to issue an unlink command, I'll go Reflector, Unlink Reflector, and if I key the mic, it's going to issue that command. Now, I can very simply, I can either touch the screen and go back, or since I'm highlighted on 2, I can come back and just select it with the knob, rotate it. Now, wasn't that easy? 7100 will do the same thing. You just have to connect an external GPS, of course, to the 7100. So the 3151 and this is a 5100. It's easy to select them that way. You can do the same thing on the 51 handheld. You just won't do it with a touch screen. You'll use this kind of up and down, left and right, like a mouse, to select and highlight the field you want. Correct. That's exactly right. The question was, I go through a local repeater just to see if it's connected, select the I command. It'll tell me whether it's linked or not. Remember that little scrolling line down at the bottom here? That's going to, 2 things I failed to say early. Is anyone in here an anonymous kerchunker? If you are, your days are numbered with D-Star, because your call sign is always transmitted every time you transmit, and it shows up on everyone else's radio. Don't be surprised if you just say, oh, am I hitting a repeater? Station WB4QDX, not hearing any audio from you. Sorry, I was just kerchunking to see if the repeater was there. And that's one of the things you can do. The other side of it is, if then I want to use the I command, as was asked, to see if it's going to say I'm linked or not. If I use the I command and it says remote system linked, and it will scroll across, linked to reflector 1C. And then what do? Go back to CQ, CQ, CQ. Question? It actually transmits that command over the air. If you have saved it that way. So remember, if you haven't saved it, you would have to set it each time. And that's why it's good if you're using method 1 to have a block of memories with your favorites, your favorite commands in there, or if it's in DR mode, they're likely already in there. Other questions? Yes, sir. The GPS antenna is in the head. So that head is going to be somewhere right here, mobile. I've found that it will get GPS locked pretty quickly as long as it's not down in the floorboard. And I can't access it down there to use it anyway. So most of the new radios that have GPS in them, they're in the head unit if it's a mobile unit. And the 5100 is just like that. The 7100, which was mentioned, 7100 is an all-band radio. It does HF as well as VHF and UHF. Have one of those. It's a great radio. You have to add GPS to it. And I bought one from, who are the people that do the Tiny Track? Bionics. They have a little $70 little GPS unit, and I had to build a little interface for it and plug in the 7100. Yeah, you can use any of them that will send out the NMEA data stream. It will take it. Well, many of them come back to like a 9-pin serial, and I took a little small bud box, and it operated off of 5 volts instead of 12 volts. So I just put a little 7805 regulator in there and did my wiring in a little small box. Right. Right. Any other questions? Yes.
On mode 2, you have that little list of favorites
Mm-hmm.
that you use. You would have to replicate that block for each.
No, that's a separate group of memories. If you're using the Icom, or I think the RT System software also, it's under your call list. How quickly I could get to that. Oop, wrong one. See if I can get to that pretty quick. There we go. Whoops. Okay, if you look on the left side, it says your call sign. Or if you go in the radio, I think you hit menu and then call sign, and it will show you all 4 fields. Just highlight the one that you are. And then if you just turn your knob at that point, those are the ones that are stored in these 60 memories. And you can do that on every one of the radios. So that's a quick way to kind of implement your own shortened version of DR mode.
So I'm probably confused about what field is which. In that list, where is the repeater from which you're talking?
It's not in this list. It's not in this. It's in your regular memories under repeat 1 and repeat 2. All I'm changing with that field is this column. That's the only column that I'm changing when I go to your call sign in. Right. If I'm using method 2, I only put what's in memory 1. I don't put 2 through 10 in there because I don't need to. I've stored those different variations of what's in your call sign column. I've stored those in that other little 60 block of memories. And then I can just rotate the knob to get to those. So those are common to all memories. So if I set the your call sign 60 block of memories, those can be used with any memory channel in your radio. It's poor man's DR. Very good analogy for it. Does that make sense? All right, we're approaching the end of our second hour. If we can take about a 6-minute break, we're going to come back. Our third hour, we're going to do some fun stuff. You know how to operate now, so let's show some of the things that you can do with this. We'll get started in about 5 minutes. Thanks.